Welcome to the Planet B podcast, where truth, transformation, and faith converge. Join us as we flip the script on ecological despair, guided by Dr. Sailesh Rao's vision for a compassionate, rewilded vegan world. Let's begin the journey to the greatest transformation in human history.
In this episode, we will go through the Four Portals of Veganism. Maybe this is a bit self-explanatory, but what is the foundational change needed to make Planet B a reality?
We have to first recognize that we are here on planet Earth with a purpose. Our purpose is to restore the life support systems of the planet and stabilize them and maintain them. Because as soon as we recognize that we are changing the life support systems, we own them. And let's take that ownership seriously. And the veganism, to me, is the only thing that I've seen that addresses all of the problems that we have created on the planet simultaneously. I'm highly recommending that the world go vegan as quickly as possible. I use actually Gary Francione's quote in chapter 4, which is that it costs us so little to go vegan. It costs us so much if we don't.
So can you expand a little bit on that quote? What are you meaning in terms of cost for that beautiful quote stated?
Well, it's not only costing us our ill health, it's also costing us an entire planet, the only living planet that we know of. Okay? Yeah. So this is why it costs us so much if we don't go vegan. And it costs us so little to go vegan. All it is eating the right food, the food that's good for us, good for our bodies. And it's delicious too. So it's not like, it's going to be a bland food that you're eating. No, we have been able to make delicious plant-based foods. And we gain our health. We gain our spiritual, mental, and emotional and physical health all together by doing this. So it's a win-win-win in every way I look.
I think a lot of people have a misconception about what veganism really means. So, and you wrote this in the book, what is the true definition of the word vegan?
Vegan is a way of living that seeks to exclude, as far as is possible and practicable, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. So that's the short definition. And then there is an extension. It promotes the development and use of animal-free alternatives for the benefit of animals, humans, and the environment. And in dietary terms, it denotes the practice of dispensing with all products derived wholly or partly from animals. That is the official definition from the Vegan Society. But to me, it's a way of living where we don't hurt animals unnecessarily. It's simple. If you don't have to hurt animals for human purposes, don't do it. That's all it is. And every one of us resonates with that. This is nothing foreign to us. We don't want to hurt animals. In fact, most of the hurting of the animals that's happening today is happening behind closed doors. We don't even know it's happening. For the most part, we try to ignore that that's what's going on because we have been told that it's necessary to hurt animals. And now we know scientifically it is not necessary at all. This is why the time has come for the whole world to go vegan as quickly as possible to address all of the issues that we are facing, social justice issues and the planetary health issues.
So at Climate Healers, you've created an acronym around the word vegan, which I think is very inclusive, brings everyone together. Could you share that, please?
Yeah, vegan is vitally engaged guardians of animals and nature. And every child that I speak to about this wants to be that.
Yes, definitely.
Every human being I've spoken to has want it to be that,
Yes.
right? Why would you want to deliberately hurt animals unnecessarily? You want to be vitally engaged guardians of animals and nature. In a way, you could say that when you talk about being a guardian, you're already assuming some kind of dominance over the animals, right? And that is an acknowledgement of the power that we have because of technology. We do have the power to hurt them. So don't hurt them. When you're a guardian, you are acknowledging that you have the power, but you don't want to do it.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
So it's a reality that we have the power to hurt them.
You mentioned a school trip to your granddaughter's school, where could you share a little bit about that time that you gave a lecture to the children at Kamaya's school?
Yeah, her teacher had asked me to come and talk to the children about veganism, and I went. And initially the kids surrounded me. There were about 15 kids in the class. The kids surrounded me and they asked me, "So what does vegan mean?" And I told them, imagine that a bunny rabbit comes hopping into this room. How many of you would go and play with the rabbit? And they said, "Oh, we will all go play with the rabbit." I said, "How many of you would go and hurt the rabbit?" Oh, they said, "We would never hurt the rabbit." And I said, that means you're all vegan. That's all it is. Veganism means that you don't hurt animals unnecessarily. And to me, that is a neutral stance that we need to be at before we say we are going to help the animals. Before you can help animals, you have to stop hurting them. And the animals need the most help right now. Why? Because the animal population is dying off. And that to me is the biggest problem we are facing on Earth, right? That the wild animal population is dying off. So if you want the wild animals to come back, the first thing we need to do is to stop hurting animals unnecessarily.
Right. If you go into a crowd or something and you ask really anyone in that crowd, like, do you like animals? Do you love animals? They undoubtedly they'll say yes. So people don't really know why they eat them. And when they think of love and then that other side, they're kind of like,
They have been taught that eating animals is necessary for human well-being. And we teach kids this in schools. We tell them that protein is found in meat. Protein is found in animal foods. We do not tell them that protein is also found in all plant foods. Okay? So by telling kids partial truths like this, we are miseducating them. We are miseducating them to be in compliance with the dominant narrative. The dominant narrative is that you have to eat animals. That's the superior way of living. Because if you don't, the entire system collapses on planet A. Yeah. So to maintain the system on planet A, we have been lied to. Okay? And that lie is getting more and more obvious because we see the largest animals in the world are eating only plants. Okay? And millions of people have gone vegan and they're thriving. It's a well-planned vegan diet, perfectly capable of giving us all the nutrients we need and maintaining our health, right? This is why the time has come for the whole world to go vegan.
You provide some depth to the four main ways that people come into veganism. So through health, environment, ethics, and spirituality. So if you don't mind, let's begin with spirituality. Mm-hmm. How does veganism align with the spiritual self within all of us?
Well, spirituality literally means connectedness to yourself and to the world around you. So it is understanding your role in it, understanding who you are and what you do and why you're here. Okay, these are the three main questions that every one of us addresses it in every action that we do, And so when you are spiritually attuned and aligned with the world around you, then what you think, what you say, and what you do are all one and the same. Okay, so you don't have to have any misalignment in thought, word, and deed. So we just established that most people would never hurt animals unnecessarily.
Right.
Okay, so they think that they are kind to all life. But when they eat animals, they're doing the opposite. So going vegan aligns you with the way you've been thinking all along. And that's why I say that it improves your spiritual well-being fundamentally, right, when you go vegan. And
Right.
because you come into alignment with what you've been thinking all along. Right?
Yeah.
And to me, it is the most powerful reason to go vegan. Even though most people will not tell you that's why they went vegan. There are very few people who say, I went vegan for that. But once you discover the spiritual alignment, it is impossible for you to go back.
I agree 100% on that comment.
Yeah.
Now, going into the major religions, compassion is one of, if not the key component of all major religions across the world.
Correct.
Do you feel that the abstinence of hurting animals was part of these religious teachings from the beginning?
I believe so. Foundationally, all of the great thinkers have talked about compassion for all life and living without hurting anybody around you.
Right.
So compassion for all life is the foundation of almost every major religion on the planet. I don't think of any religion that says you have to go and hurt animals unnecessarily. So religion fundamentally is about living in alignment. Okay? All religions are prescriptions for how do you live in alignment. And this is why veganism is at the foundation of all the other religions. But then it gets distorted with interpretations. Yeah? And over time, the practices become misaligned with the foundational religion.
Right.
Okay? So the translations that happen from one language to another, and then eventually people are told, whatever you're doing now is fine. Yeah. So religion then comes into society to buttress whatever is happening there, right, and maintain order. So what we are calling for now is for religion to go back to their roots and to examine what the teachers were telling us from the outset and aligning it with the circumstances today.
Right.
And that means, modifying rituals, modifying things that we thought, everything can be updated, right, to the changed circumstances.
On that topic, what I feel is maybe one of the best documentaries to come out in recent years is Christspiracy, which you were an executive director of. Why do you feel that the message of that film is so important to this time?
Yeah, Christspiracy, it traces it back to what was really happening and shows that there is another interpretation for the events that makes sense. Anything, when you examine deeply and you discover misalignment, you have to figure out how do you explain that misalignment. Okay?
Right.
And Christspiracy traces it back to the way things were when Jesus Christ was alive, where there was no city of Nazareth, but most likely he was a Nazarene. That's why he was called Jesus of Nazareth. And a Nazarene is someone who eats plants only, who doesn't hurt animals. And they were known as that sect those days. Okay, And then everything makes sense. Why did he overturn the tables? Why did he drive the animals out of the temple? And how the temple was being used as a slaughterhouse. Because it was a way for the priests to say, okay, now I have sanctified your killing of the animals. Not everybody can kill animals, only those who know how to do it can do it. And that was really what was going on in the temple, and that's what Jesus was protesting against. So it's recognizing that veganism was at the foundation of every religion. That's what Christspiracy was doing too. There's another movie that I was part of called A Prayer for Compassion.
That's a really good one too. If anyone hasn't seen that, that's a beautiful documentary.
Thank you. Yeah, it was done in 2019, and it basically showed that compassion for all life is the foundation of every major religion that we examined. Okay? And so compassion for all life means that you don't hurt animals unnecessarily. Yeah, and the only reason we have been doing it is because we have been told that that's the only source of protein, or that's the only source of calcium. And as science has now progressed to say that that's not true.
Going back to the foundational myths discussed in chapter 1.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you mentioned as well in India, some of the religious practices are going back to their roots. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, in India, in the original way we were eating, was fundamentally plant-based. It was actually whole food plant-based. It was quite healthy. We had, our recipes were all designed to make sure that we get all the micronutrients that we need and all the macronutrients that we need. And slowly over time, they got distorted. We started adding too much oil. Then we started adding too much ghee, and then started adding meat to it. Why? Because we were told you're not getting enough protein, you're not getting enough calcium, you're not getting enough nutrients. And that's why your life expectancy was low. And in fact, you're not getting enough food. That's why your life expectancy was low. Not because of the diet itself. It's just, the food was being taken away from us and being stored in warehouses and allowed to rot. And that's how we were being controlled in India. Yeah.
Wow.
And the story was told that it's all because of the kind of food you're eating, not because of the lack of food.
The system behind it.
Exactly. The system was all about control. How do you control people? Make them hungry. Then they will do whatever you ask them to do. Okay? That was the original colonial approach to controlling people through food.
Right. And you've mentioned before, previously, I'm from the West, so maybe some people don't know this, but cows were regarded as, and still are regarded as sacred in India, and they weren't always eaten.
Right. Well, see, they've always been kind of disposed of behind closed doors, right? Because when a cow gets to be old, she's not productive anymore. So efficiency calls for you to somehow get rid of her. So there was this notion of untouchability, and all this caste system was built around that those who dispose of these things, and we don't know about them, are untouchable. They're doing all the dirty work and allows the rest of us to live a clean life, right? And all because we thought we had to exploit animals. I really think that the fundamental reason why we started exploiting animals was because we started washing our food first. When we start washing your food, you no longer get the soil in the food. And when you don't eat the soil, you don't get the vitamin B12 bacteria.
Right.
Okay. So you don't get vitamin B12, so you get anemic over time. It's called pernicious anemia. And you discover that when you eat some animal foods, you get that vitamin B12 and you can feel healthy again. And this is how I think empirically our ancestors figured out that you need to eat some animal foods at least a few times a year in order to thrive. So they specified that during festivals, you have to either make sweets with animal milk, or you have to eat an animal and share it with everybody. So this is how they made sure that everybody had access to some animal foods a few times a year. And that kept the population healthy. Okay, that's empirically, that's what they did. Now we know about vitamin B12. We discovered it in the 1940s. And we now started making it in the lab, in the 60s and 70s. So you can get vitamin B12 as a supplement. And since the soil has been depleted of bacteria in a lot of places, even the animals are being fed supplements. And that's how the animal foods still have some vitamin B12. And despite that, the majority of vitamin B12 deficiency is found among non-vegans. Because they're still not able to retain that. This is why we have to really rethink our entire nutritional. How do we get our nutrition? So the food system is the core transformation that needs to happen.
All right. That leads us right into the next reason why people would go into veganism, and that's for diet. So
for health, yeah.
Right. So why is the vegan diet optimal for human health?
Vegan diet is optimum for human health in the current environmental circumstances. Okay? In the current environmental circumstances where there is so much chemical pollution in the environment and the population of human beings is so large, how would you provide the nutrients that everybody needs? And we have an abundance of plant foods on the planet right now because we have already, appropriated 12% of the land area of the planet just to grow crops, and 37% just to graze our animals.
And
right?
People don't know that. I mean, that's such a tremendous amount of land.
So all that land is being used to graze animals. And I say, if you just take the crops directly and feed it to human beings, we have plenty of food to eradicate world hunger right now. Okay?
It's that simple.
That simple. And we have all the nutrients we would need. Okay? We would have all the nutrients that we would need. But a lot of the food is being wasted. It's being wasted mainly by feeding it to animals first.
Right.
And when we feed it to animals first, the animals have to eat 39 kgs of food to give us 1 kg of food on our plate from animal sources.
That's shocking. That's a shocking statistic.
Yeah. Yeah, people don't know. It's straight from the IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. If you just read their document, it's there. The data is there.
Shocking. I mean, it's almost unbelievable.
It is. But, when people tell you that 8 pounds of grain is needed to produce, or 10 pounds of grain is needed to produce 1 pound of meat, they're only looking at the grain component. They're not looking at all the other food that you have to feed the animals.
All right.
And they're looking at wet weight, not dry weight. Okay? So the wet weight of meat is higher because there's a lot of water in the meat. The grains are dry. So you're comparing wet with dry. And that's how you get a smaller number. There are all kinds of such shenanigans going on in the statistics to convince you it's not such a big problem.
Yeah. So let's go into the next portal, which is why is veganism the best solution to solve the environmental crisis? I mean, some of this data highlights it tremendously, but maybe you could share a little more.
Yeah, it is both from efficiency perspective because of the land use. So 37% of the land is being used to just graze animals, and more than half the cropland output is going to feed our animals, and our animals are only giving us 12% of the food we eat in terms of dry weight. So you have to compare dry weight of the food we're getting on our plate and the dry weight of the food that we are feeding our animals. Okay? That's the apples to apples comparison that we need to be doing. And when you do that, there's a 39 to 1 reduction that happens, and only 12% of the food we eat comes from animals. 85% of the food we eat is already coming from plants. And the remaining 3% comes from the ocean, for which we are destroying an area the size of South America every year.
Unbelievable.
On the ocean floor every year, okay, to get the 3% of the food we eat. So that if you turn that 85% into 100%, which is not such a big change, okay,
Right.
then you can return 40% of the land back to nature, as well as the entire ocean back to nature. And this to me is the number one reason that why we need to be going vegan today. Because when we do that, we can restore the planet.
Like I've heard this question before is, what do you do with all the animals if we were to go to a fully vegan diet and we still have the animals that are alive today, which people previously ate, what would we do with them?
Well, we eat babies.
Right.
Okay? They're not too old. And so we need to first bring down the population of the animals we have to stop impregnating animals.
Right.
So as soon as we ban the impregnation of animals, new animals don't come into the world because of human artificial impregnation.
Right.
Yeah. And so the existing population of animals will decline rapidly. Because we are not going to shut down the entire meat industry right away. Okay? But if you ban the impregnation of animals and you continue with the current system, the prices will go up very fast and the animals will disappear. And then we can restore the land back to nature. So which means the wild animals populations will come back.
Right.
Right now we are suppressing the wild animal population. We are actually artificially going around killing them because they are eating the food that our animals are supposed to be eating.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we kill off the predators because they could kill our animals. So we do a lot of lethal conservation, suppressing the population of wild animals in order to provide room for our farmed animals to grow. So
and what's the percentage of animals that we've lost across the world because of this practice or other practices that have happened due to animal agriculture?
Oh, we have lost vast majority of the wild animals on the planet. The estimate is something like 80 to 90% compared to what they were 10,000 years ago. Okay, closer to 90% actually now. And so only 10% of the wild animal population and the megafauna are still around.
Again, that's just a shocking statistic. I mean, only 10% of the animals are left.
All left, yeah. So we have taken over their land for our farmed animals, and then we have artificially grown them to be so big that their weight, the weight of the farmed animals, is 10 to 12 times the weight of all the wild animals that lived 10,000 years ago in terms of their impact on the planet. Because the population of the farmed animals is unnaturally young. They're mostly all babies. And when you're a baby, you eat more than your weight would indicate. You eat at least double the weight, right? So if you look at the overall weight of the animals and compare it to what they're eating double what the normal population of animals with that weight would have been eating. So that's why I double that, So to say that the equivalent weight of all the farmed animals is 10 to 12 times the weight of all the wild animals that lived 10,000 years ago. And the earth is not able to sustain that. So this is why the animal waste is not being processed properly because it's out of balance in the system. right? And it is then poisoning the waters for the other animals. It's poisoning the soil. So it's like it's just too much waste you've created in the system that the earth is not able to process.
Right. And then going into the fourth portal, which is ethically, it's interesting because a lot of people don't realize that when we consume animals, not only are we damaging that animal, but also the habitats of all the other animals that are unfortunately being destroyed because of eating that animal. So it's just such a tremendous ripple effect across the earth by consuming animals.
Absolutely, yeah. I think everybody agrees with that. Everybody agrees with that. Scientists all agree with that. But they're saying that the solution is to maybe cut it down by half. And you
It's like,
and you ask, if you
geez.
cut it down by half and you're still growing, won't it grow back to what it was? Number one. And number two, if you cut it down by half, are you still maintaining the same foundational myths? That protein is only found in animal foods. Calcium is only found in dairy foods. If you maintain all those foundational myths, then lots of others are going to want to eat animals.
Right.
Who are not able to eat today because they don't have the income, right? And so if you maintain the system and you just try to tweak it, you're not going to solve the problem overall. So when you have foundational myths driving a system, that system will never be able to sustain itself forever. So I don't see cutting it down by half as a solution.
Right.
I see addressing the foundational myths, fixing the foundation, making the correct foundational axioms. And as soon as you start thinking in the correct foundational axioms, you don't want to eat animals.
Correct.
So the whole thing goes away, right?
As you stated that if we have wiped out 90% of the animal populations on Earth very recently, then how much time before, unfortunately, we could potentially wipe out all animals on Earth, which would, who knows what that would trigger?
Yeah, here is the thing, right? Nature is a great amplifier. So when we shoot animals and kill them because they are invading our grazing land or whatever reasons, we go around shooting animals and killing them and for this lethal conservation. Nature says, okay, that's what you want to do? I'll kill them too. It's because there is not, like what happens when you shoot animals. You're shooting some mother. So the babies are not able to survive without the mother and the babies die. So nature amplifies your actions. So if you killed 1 or 2 animals, nature kills 3 to 6.
Wow. Yeah.
So this is how you create a spiral, a downward spiral, where then you don't have to touch it, nature will die on its own. Okay, the animal population will die on its own. So there are these minimum viable populations. We have to bring them back to that, and then we have to foster them so that they can come back. So literally you have to go and beg the animals to stay. Okay,
Yep.
with our actions in order for us to restore the life support systems of the planet. Because if all the animals die out, the ecosystem dies out too, eventually, because the trees depend on the animals for propagating their seeds. There is all this interactions between different species that we rip up when we kill animals.
Right. And that goes back to just the urgency of it all. So I know this will
Yeah.
lead in a little bit to the next chapter, but why do we need to go vegan now?
We have to go vegan as quickly as possible now, mainly for environmental reasons. Okay? The ethical reasons have been there for 10,000 years. And people say, well, we've been doing it for 10,000 years, so what's the rush now? Right?
Right.
Or you could say spirituality also. You could say, Maybe the next generation can do it. It doesn't have to be us. Health-wise also, you could say, I'm feeling good now, so I can eat some animal foods. But the environment is screaming at us, saying, if you don't address this, the Earth's life support systems can collapse. Wow. And the Planetary Health Alliance, it issues this Planetary Health Check report. And it's coming out like every few years now. And the latest Planetary Health Check report said that the loss of biodiversity, biosphere integrity, is at such a critical state that it could destabilize the life support systems of the planet. Now, what does that mean? It has high risk of destabilizing the life support systems of the planet. What does that mean? If I destabilize the circulatory system of our body, I could die. Because one system, when it collapses all the other systems in your body. The same thing, you could have a ripple effect like that. The planet could die, literally. And in the past, when we looked at how planets has revived itself, it has taken millions of years to revive itself after an extinction event, right? And I don't even know if it can revive itself now, because it's at the inner edge of the habitable zone. So we'll go into all this later. This is why I'm saying it's absolutely critical that we do everything in our power to stabilize and restore the life support systems of the planet. Okay? And as a systems engineer, that's the one thing that I tell you is very critical today. Because I've studied systems, I understand how systems can collapse together. I understand nonlinear feedback loops. To the best of my ability, I can say that this is so complex, but it's very fragile too. Don't assume that the life support systems can take any beating, and so you can do whatever abuse you want to it.
Yeah. Well, I think your next chapter title says it all, and it is House on Fire.
Yes.
So we'll look forward to diving into episode 5 on our next episode. Dr. Rao, would you like to share any closing message for this episode 4?
Yeah, I want to say this may seem like a daunting step, but it is a step that's in alignment with who we really are, and it is a joyful step that we should be taking. So thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Rao, and thank you all for joining us on the Planet B podcast, and we hope you join us for episode 5. Take care. Thank you.
This has been a podcast from Planet B, where animals are born, not manufactured. If you haven't moved here yet, we thank you for visiting.
The house is burning, but we're still sitting in the glow. Phones charged, lights on, pretending we don't know. But the forest is silent, the river's running low, and the flame on our plates is the strongest fire we throw. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. 7 boundaries broken, the earth pushed past the line. Climate, land, species, fresh water, chemicals, nutrients, oceans in decline. Not danger, disaster in real time. dairy feeds the flame, cows and methane, fields and forests turn to grain. Politics, culture, carbon, all wired to the same chain. Every cup of curd is heat in the air, every block of butter is a forest repair. It's not a small habit, it's a planetary affair. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is our hour. Energy fixes half the hurt, Dr. Rao made that clear. But food fixes the other half, the half that's burning here. Change the plate, change the land, change the future's atmosphere. Put out the fire, put out the fire. Metafoodians unite, this is your choir. Every millet, every fruit, every sapseed, every bean is water on the wildfire of a world we've never seen. Every oil-free bite is a river turning clean. This is not perfection, it's direction. Not pressure, but protection. A week of choices can cool a generation. A company's courage can ignite a nation. Put out the fire, ooh, put out the fire. Echoes and rise, this is your hour. Metafoodians unite, Metafoodians ignite, sharing love in the meta zone, light in the path to a cooler